Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. So we are continuing in the chapter of purification in the fiqh of purification. We spoke previously about the obligations of wudhu, and now we're going to talk about the wiping on al-khuffayn, which is the leather footgear. So the author, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with him and benefit us and him with the knowledge that he has left, he said, وَيَجُوزُ الْمَسْحُ عَلَى الْخُفَّيْن بَدَلًا عَنْ غَسْلِ الرَّجْلَيْن فِي الْوُضُوءِ. So he said it is permissible to wipe on al-khuffayn. Now the khuffayn are the leather footgear. So it is the leather socks, if you like, or the leather footgear. So it's made out of leather, and it was a type of footwear that the Arabs and other civilizations used to wear. And it's really pretty much like a shoe. It was treated like a shoe, but it was more like a soft shoe, because it would bend and they could wear it and etc. Now, you have to understand that in that context, because at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, what was the masjid? What was the ground of the masjid? Was it carpeted?
Sand or stone?
It was sand. So it was sand, it was earth. It wasn't, there's no carpets, there was no straw mats, and some periods there was some pebbles put, pebbles as a form of carpet, It's very small stones, which were soft, and things like. But sometimes they would be sharp. So even in the fiqh they say that it's not, it's makruh that when you're coming to do sujood to start, playing about with the stones to make them smooth. And even in the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man massa al-hasa fala jum'ata lah." Whoever touches the pebbles, then he has lost the jum'ah, because that's a form of distraction. Okay, so even playing with the pebbles during Jum'ah. So the point being is that the masjid was ground, it was earth. So people didn't used to enter the masjid, they wouldn't take their shoes off or their sandals. They would just walk straight in. And they would walk in, they would stand in the rows, and they'll just pray. They'll pray with their sandals. So it wasn't an issue. Taking off shoes as you enter a masjid is not a traditional thing, and it's something that came later when carpets were introduced, and obviously to be kept clean. So because of this, people would wear, if you like, their shoes, and they would enter, they would leave. It was part of, they wouldn't keep on taking it off and on. And they used to have this leather socks or leather footgear, which they would wear, if you like, continuously. They would wear it on journey. So it wasn't merely a sock, it was actually a shoe, but a soft type of shoe. So that is what al-khuffayn was. And obviously it was part of the clothing of the Prophet ﷺ. So he used to have khuffayn, and it used to be like a sock, so it used to cover all the foot up to and above the ankle. Alright? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from His rahmah and from His mercy, is that He allowed to make it easy for the people. He allowed instead of, because we said previously that one of the integrals, one of the fara'id of wudu is to wash the feet. So He allowed, instead of washing the feet, the permissibility to wipe on this leather footgear if the conditions are met. What is the benefit of this? We know that washing the feet is just that little bit more harder, to do. It takes a little bit more, more time, effort. So here is to allow people to get on and to make it. Also, it probably takes more water in the wudu than any other washing. So it is for lots of reasons. But here, notice that he said, وَيَجُوزُ الْمَسْحِ. It's permissible to wipe. Why did he say permissible and not recommended? Does anybody know?
Because the sunnah is to wash the feet and only to wipe when necessary, right?
No. So you can. Doesn't have to be a reason for wiping, but you're on the right terms. The original, the foundation, al-asl, al-ghusl, that to wash the feet. Yeah, and the washing is the primary function. This is how you should be doing it. You should be washing the feet. The wiping on the is an exception. It's a permissibility. It's a what they call a dispensation. It's a rukhsa. It's to allow to make it ease for you. So it's always best to adhere to the foundations. Wherever you can, you do the better, if you like. Like, for example, when we said the wudhu, the basis of wudhu is just to do the wudhu once, meaning to wash the face once, to wash the arms once. But the recommended is to do it 3 times. So it's always better to do 3 times, okay, because you are building on what is best, all right? So here he said, وَيَجُوزُ الْمَسْحِ, so it means that it is better to wash the feet where you can. All right, but if you don't have to have a reason. If you're wearing them, you can wipe on them. However, they did say that sometimes it becomes recommended in some instances. What are those instances? They said, if first of all, for example, you are short of water, so you're on journey, you're short of water, you need the water either for your drink or for an animal that's with you that needs water or whatever, and you don't have enough water. So here, if you're going to use that to wash your feet, you're going to use some of the water which you need. So here it becomes recommended, okay? Also, they said they recommended if you have a theological problem with the masih. Some people might say, no, I'm not sure about the masih. It sounds a bit dodgy. Yeah. So here he said it's recommended for someone who has that kind of, it's almost like a waswasa. It's almost like, I'm not sure about. They say, no, it's recommended for you to remove this doubt, okay? Now, also, Masih al-Khuffayn, some people, I mean, like Tahawi, rahimahullah, who wrote his famous writings on Aqidah, he made Masih al-Khuffayn part of the Aqidah. He said it's like part of Madhab Ahlul Sunnah. Why? Although it's nothing to do with Aqidah, it's Fiqh, but it was to differentiate from the Shia. Because the Shia, they don't wipe on the Khuffayn. They don't consider that dispensation, and maybe the hadith that they have doesn't follow. Even though Masih al-Khuffayn is something which is narrated by multiple chains, and it's not just 1 or 2 Sahaba that narrate, it's multiple Sahaba who narrated that the permissibility of wiping, and the Prophet ﷺ did it. But for some reason or another, they don't. They actually have something which is a little bit stranger, which is that their wudu is wiping the feet, okay, not washing the feet. So they have the permissibility of that you do the wash the face, wash your arms and things, wipe the head, and then wipe the feet, okay, as opposed to actually washing the feet. But anyway, we're not going to go into their opinions and things like that, but that's an important point to note. وَشَرْطُ جَوَازِ الْمَسِحِ. So now, what is the conditions that allow us to wipe over the khuffayn? Number 1, it has to be after a complete tahara. So you have completely done your tahara, meaning that you have finished either your wudu or your ghusl. And here is a very technical point. What is the technical point? Is that some people, maybe they are doing wudu, so they've done the arms, everything, then they wash their right foot, then they put on the khuf for the right foot, then they wash the left foot, and then they put on the khuf for the left foot. It's like a form of doing one at a time, yeah? Here, you put the right one on before you have wudu, isn't it? Because you still haven't washed the left foot. Yeah. Until you actually wash the left foot, then you have the full wudu. So what should we do now here? What would be the solution to allow the masih?
He will wipe
No, to allow the masih. Because we said one of the conditions is that you must wear them after full tahara, meaning you've finished your tahara. And he put the right one on before he had full tahara.
So you keep them on and do the wipe?
No, but he doesn't.
He washes both feet and then puts on.
Yes. So what's he gonna do?
Take
them off. And
Both of them?
No, the one he took off.
No, both feet, yeah.
The one he put the hoof on.
Both of them. He put both of them khuf.
Yeah.
He washed his right foot, then he put the khuf on the right foot. He put that on. Then he washed his left foot, then he put the khuf on the left foot.
They take them both off. You have to.
No.
He take only the left one.
No.
The left one he.
No. Only one left. One choice left.
Take them both.
Right. Just the right. Because the left, he put it on after the wudu is complete. So the left one is correct now. The right one was put on before the wudu is complete. So all he has to do is take off the right one, wash it, and then put on the khuf for the right. Because remember, beginning with the right or left is a sunnah in wudu. It's not obligatory. You can wash your left before your right. Okay, and your wudu is sound. Okay, it's better to wash the right first. But so once he washed the right and the foot, now he has full wudu, and he put on the left. So the left is fine, but the right was put on before he washed the left. So he takes off that khuf, washes the right, and then puts it back on again. All right. So it's just a very small technicality. The other thing is, أن يكون الخف طاهرا. The khuf itself has to be tahir, it has to be clean. So it has to be clean in essence. So it's not made out of anything which is najis, like what? Pigs. So anything that's like porcine leather, okay? Or, what's the other type of leather? That's also najis. There's other two types. Come on, what's the...
Snake.
What's the najis animal?
Snake.
No, yeah, snake.
Pea.
Snake is one of them, but we're not gonna. Huh?
The pea.
Huh?
The
No.
pea.
Why have you gone so far for hyenas? What is something close here?
Dogs.
Dogs.
Yeah.
So a dog is najis. So the dog as an animal najis, and the pig is najis. These are the only two animals in the Shafi'i madhab which are najis during their lifetime. So all living animals are tahir except the dog and the pig. Okay? All living animals are tahir. كل حي طاهر إلا الكلب والخنزير. Alright? وكل ميت نجس إلا every dead animal is najis except which two categories?
The sea fish.
Yes, the aquatic life, yeah, and I mean aquatic dead, isn't death, yeah, and
Tiger?
no, huh? Jamal, no. Al-jarad, the locust or the grasshopper, yeah. So in the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Uhillat lana maytatan." Two dead animals are halal for us: the fish and the jarad, the locust. It's a very good Islamic solution here to a problem, because when people are attacked by locusts, the locusts, they come in swarms, don't they? They're really. So this is a great opportunity. The Muslims should see that, oh, mashallah, there's a lot of food here. Let's go out and get them. And apparently, I haven't tasted them, but apparently they taste like prawns or something like that. So anyway, so every dead animal is najis except the fish, or the aquatic life, the animal that can only survive in water, or the locust. So if it is made out of dog's leather or pig's leather, you cannot wear it. If it is najis within itself, meaning that it has some najasa on it, an impurity, urine or feces or blood or whatever, then again you have to wash it. Or the other type of leather which is not tahir is dead animal leather. So if a cow died without being slaughtered, the leather is najis until it is tanned. Okay, dibagh. And tanning is to basically to clean all the fat and everything of it, and then it is treated with chemicals. Okay, to make it, it's a form of preservation. It's called the dibagha. Dibagha will make it tahir, okay? But if it's not made if it's not tanned, it will be najis. So this will include any animal that is died, not slaughtered. Once it's slaughtered, it's all halal, yeah? It's all tahir. Also, it will include any animal that is not eaten, yani not consumed normally. So a snake is not halal to eat. Okay, so any leather of the snake, even if it is tanned, it's still considered najis. In addition to it being haram to wear. Okay, or crocodile, for example. So these are animals which you are not, unlike a lizard, the lizard, a lizard, they used to eat it, and the Prophet ﷺ allowed it to be eaten, but he didn't like to eat it, and he disliked to eat it. Once he was in the house of his wife, Maymuna, and Khalid ibn al-Walid was there, and he was presented with a roasted lizard. And it's not like these small lizards, this is like one of these big ones. So the Prophet didn't like to eat it. So Khalid said, is it haram? Or he said, no, it's not haram. But I don't feel that I can eat it. You know, sometimes there's certain things you can't stomach, and you just don't want to. Like, for example, for me, I don't know how people eat snails, for example, or frogs, or you know, or sometimes not only that, but sometimes people eat like the brain, you know, the brain of a sheep, or the lungs, or yeah, some people, you can't eat it. It's not, but other people, oh mashallah, it's a delicacy. And it's, you know, or they eat. Sometimes they eat this squid, the squid alive. You know, in Japan or China or wherever, they put it, they wrap it around the stick. What's the But anyway, so the Prophet ﷺ was presented, he said, I can't eat it. Is it haram? No, it's not haram. So Khalid took it and he started eating it. So anyway, the point being is the lizard, as a leather, it will be within the halal. Yes?
Is any type of seafood that is not allowed or halal?
Seafood?
Yeah.
So generally all seafood is halal on the condition that it doesn't survive outside the water. Okay?
Okay.
So according to the Shafi'i madhab, things like crabs are not halal to eat. Crabs, lobsters, things like that. Because how do you slaughter a crab? How do you do that?
Boil it alive or hammer it?
Yeah, they boil it alive, and the lobster they boil it alive, so it doesn't live. Whereas the fish, you take it out of water, khalas, it dies. Bring it out of water, that is its slaughtering. That's the zakat for that animal. So there are those kind of animals that would not, if you can consider them as aquatic. Okay, we move on because we've gone on to the topic of food, which can be a long topic. Right, so we said that it has to be worn after tahara kamil, it has to be pure in itself, and also it has to be strong, and the khuff has to be made out of a strong material which you can walk on. Alright, because remember we said that the khuff initially was a substitute for shoes. Okay, so they used to wear it, and they used to, so that's part of the reason why, and they used to wear it in journey. Alright, so it was like something that they would wear, and it has to be strong. It's not going to be something that's just going to fall apart or tear apart. And also it has to be something that covers all the area which is normally washed. Okay, so something like that would not be, if there was a khuff like that size, would not be considered, because that's beneath the ankles. Okay, so it has to be above the ankles. Also, it has to be preventive, impervious to water. So we shouldn't allow water to enter into it as well. Alright? And then there is a time limit on it. So if you are resident, the time limit is 24 hours. If you are on journey, it's 3 days with their nights, so 72 hours. Okay? And it starts after the first hadath. No, hadath, the first time you break your wudhu. That's when the time counter starts. Alright, so say you made wudhu, you put on the khuff, and you prayed dhuhr, okay? And then you stayed until Maghrib without breaking your wudu. When you broke your wudu at Maghrib, okay, and now you went and you wiped on the khuf, you have 24 hours from Maghrib until the next day if you are resident. If you're on journey, it's 3 days and 3 nights. Now, if he wiped on his khuffayn, or he started the wiping when he was resident, and then he went on journey, or he was on journey and then came back, he's gonna have the least amount that is allowed. So if he was resident when he started, but then went on journey, he's still allowed only 24 hours. If he was a resident and then he on journey, then he came back, he's only allowed 24 hours. All right, so it's the lesser amount that's going to be applicable. Now the sunnah of the masih, the wajib of the masih. The wajib of the masih is the minimal. Okay, you might want to record this. So you have the khuf. I know this is not khuf, but you have the khuf. So the least amount of wajib is just to do this. Okay, wet hand. If you just do that, that's enough. That suffices as the masih. The recommended thing is to have 2 hands, one at the front here, one at the back, and then to go like this. That is and in like fingers like that. Okay, that is the recommended. All right, so that's with regards to wiping over the leather footgear. Next section is what breaks wudu, the nullifiers of wudu. Okay, so of course, I mean the madhahib, they have a whole range of things. The different schools, they basically agree on 2 things. And then everything beyond this, there's lots of opinions about it. So what are the 2 things that they agree on? Firstly, anything that exits from the 2 exits, okay, the frontal or the rear. So whether it's wind, whether it's urine, whether it's feces, whether it's pre-ejaculation fluid, or even if it's something which is abnormal, like blood. Okay, it doesn't normally come out, blood, etc. Anything that is moist and it comes out, then that is going to break the wudu. All right. Actually, not even moist. Even they said even if a stone comes out, that's going to also break the wudu. So anything that's going to be ingested, that's something that they agree on. Secondly, the loss of conscious. Okay, losing conscious, meaning losing your awareness of what's happening, either by fainting. No, either by fainting. Okay, so meaning that you've fainted, or you've lost consciousness, either voluntary or involuntary. Okay, or you've gone to sleep. All right, in a position that is not. You're not establishing your bottom on the ground. Okay, so this sitting considered established bottom on the ground. Yeah. Now, if you sleep in other than this, meaning that you're lying down, or if you're sleeping like this with your legs up, okay, or maybe like this or like this, or any other way. So here you see the whole idea is that the opening, the rear opening, if it is firm on the ground, nothing's going to come out. No wind is going to come out. The moment you lie down, because in the hadith, the Prophet said the eyes are the string for, you have a pouch of, you have some money, but there has a string, yeah? He said the eyes are the string for the anus. The eyes are the string, meaning so when the eyes go, the string is open. So when you are asleep, you will pass wind without being aware. All right, but as long as you're awake, you can control, isn't it? You can control yourself. Now, the Sahaba, there is a hadith where the Sahaba were leaning on the wall. Okay, so again here, part of it is that you are leaning. If you are leaning on a wall and sleeping like this, so here nothing's going to escape. So that's why even in the hadith, he said that in some of the Sahaba would sleep and they could even hear them snoring. That's how they're snoring. And then the mu'adhin would come, he'd make the iqamah, they'll get up and they'll just pray without even making wudu. Okay? Meaning that this thing was not going to break their wudu. Okay? Even if they started to snore. But the moment they lie down, or the moment they sleep like this, or moving before, then that is going to lose their wudu. So those are the main two things that are agreed upon. And why I say that agreed upon with this, some opinion of the scholars that even if you sit like this and you go to sleep, you break your wudu. But I'm not going to go into detail of that. But I'm saying the loss of consciousness is definitely agreed upon. Now in the Shafi'i madhab, you have those two, then you have another two. The other two is touching your private part. Okay? Touching your private part with the inside of the hand. Alright? So, this includes one's male organ, okay? And includes the back passage. Okay, we call the anal sphincter. So touching that with the inside of the hand, meaning without any cover, and for the woman include her frontal part as well. With the inside of the hands, how would you define the inside? We define it by this. So anything that cannot be seen is considered inside of the hands. And for the thumbs is like this. Meaning that the fingertips are not included. Okay? Anything that's not seen is considered inside. Alright? So if you touch any of that for the awrah, your own or somebody else's, then it will break your wudu. And this is more applicable as well for adults who are, for example, cleansing their children. So cleaning their children, wiping them, changing their nappies, etc. That would also break their wudu. And the last, fourth thing is the touching of the skin to skin touching of man and woman. Okay, of any two people who cannot, can be married, so they are not mahram. Okay, it includes the wife and includes anyone that is not a mahram. If she is a mahram, meaning you can't marry her eternally, then it doesn't apply. All right. So your mother, your sister, niece, aunties, your mother-in-law, your daughter-in-law, I think those who you cannot marry, touching them does not break the wudu. But your wife and any other woman would break your wudu if they're skin-to-skin touch. Even if there is no desire, there is no pleasure or whatever. There's a famous difference of opinion between the Shafi'i method, which is very strict in this, so any touching, and between the other extreme, if you like, which is the Hanafi madhab, where they say no, the touching which is meant by the Quran, in the Quran, is really indication of the bigger thing, which is the intimacy that happens between a male and a female. The exclusion is, or what is excluded from this, is the child. So touching a young girl doesn't break your wudu, okay? Because the child is not someone that you would desire. Also touching anything that is not skin, so hair, tooth, or nail. They said this is not considered skin. All right. So if you touch the hair of your wife, it doesn't break your wudu. Touching her clothes doesn't break the wudu either. All right.
Skin.
So it's just skin to skin. All right. So those are the four things that break the wudu. Those are the only four things in the Shafi'i madhab that break. Anything else does not break the wudu. All right. The chapter of what becomes haram with minor impurity. So this now is considered minor impurity, what we call in Arabic hadath. One of those four things happens, you have hadath, minor. What is haram with hadath? Three things is haram for you to do when you have minor impurity. As-salah, okay, so it's haram to pray when you have hadath, yeah? It's haram to pray, and if you pray intentionally without wudu, it is considered kufr. Very important. You pray intentionally without wudu, it is kufr. Why is it kufr? Because it's considered mocking the deen and mocking the ahkam of the deen. You cannot pray without wudu. Right? So you do it intentionally, you are making fun of the deen, or you are... Obviously, if you... anything besides that, I forgot, I didn't know, no, of course, that's not. But when you do it intentionally, it means you are messing about with it. What is considered in the same meaning as salah is tawaf around the Kaaba. Okay, tawaf is like a salah. All right, the hadith the Prophet said, "At-tawafu salah, illa annahu udhina lana fil kalam." We have been permitted to talk during tawaf, so you can talk during tawaf. Okay, but it is salah. So even then, you need to have the. Some people take that to extreme and they get out their mobile phones and they're talking around the Kaaba. They say, yeah, I'm here, look, I'm here in the Kaaba, you never. They take the selfies. And the third thing, which is touching or carrying the mushaf. Okay? So touching, carrying the mushaf is also haram when a person has hadath. And includes anything which is like considered mushaf. So this is a mushaf, obviously. Even touching its cover, they used to have like sometimes they make like out of a cloth cover, the bookcase, if it's made out of like wood, anything like that, you shouldn't carry, you shouldn't touch it without wudu. All right. The only two exceptions, if you like. The previous exception is there's two traditional exceptions, and then there's a modern exception. So the traditional exceptions is if the mushaf is in luggage, it's part of luggage. So you have a luggage, you have all your clothes and everything, and the mushaf is inside that, that's fine. Because you're not carrying the mushaf per se. The mushaf is just part of the whole luggage. So that's okay. Secondly, if the mushaf is contained with a book which is more than the mushaf. في تفسير أكثر منه. Sometimes you have book of tafsir, explanation. In the side they have a mushaf, so you read the Quran, you have the tafsir on the side. If the tafsir is more than the mushaf, here we're going to say that this is not a mushaf, it's tafsir, even though it contains the Quran. Alright, so that's the modern thing, which a lot of people ask, is about the mobile phone. Can I take my mobile? Can I carry my mobile phone? It has the mushaf in it. Here, the simple answer is that the mobile phone does not have the mushaf inside it. It's just images of the mushaf, and that image goes and comes. You can switch it on, you can turn it off. So that doesn't apply either. All right?
But you don't open it anywhere where it is. You know, you don't open it somewhere dirty.
No, you're not opening it. But the thing is, some people say, "Oh, the mushaf there's a mushaf inside here."
So
somewhere in the memory. So is that? Can I carry it? Can I touch it? And can I carry it when I don't have wudu? Yeah. That's the question here.
Go to the toilet.
No, just to carry it without wudu, because we said you can't carry the mushaf when you don't have wudu. Yeah? So they'll say, can I carry it when I have, or the other one is taking it into the toilet. That's another section. Okay? However, it's permissible for a child to carry a mushaf without wudu, because they are not considered obliged by the ahkam of the sharia. And maybe a child might be difficult to always have the wudu if they are learning and studying. Whoever is certain that they have made wudu, but they are uncertain if they broke their wudu, okay, so they're certain of wudu, but they're uncertain if they break the wudu, they're going to build on the certainty, which is what? That they have wudu. Okay? Whoever is certain that they don't have wudu, but they're not sure if they made wudu, we're going to say the certainty is what? That they break the wudu. So whatever you are certain of, that's what you're going to build on. Alright? You made wudu, you're sure, you woke up in the morning, you made wudu, but after that you're not sure if you broke wind or you whatever. You're definitely certain you made wudu, that's fine. You can pray with that wudu if you want. However, it's recommended to make wudu in this case, but only out of certainty that you have broken your wudu. So now, for example, you have made wudu, so that's certain, yeah? Then after that you doubt, did I go to the toilet? Did I not go to the toilet? We say you have wudu, so you can pray with that, yeah? But it's better to break your wudu, yeah? Because now you are certain you have broken your wudu, and now make wudu again. It's to remove any doubts, if you like. Okay? So it's always good to build on that. And we're going to end with this last section, which is when is it recommended to make wudu? So we said there are 4 scenarios where you have to make wudu. I mean, breaks your wudu. Yeah? What are they? Who can tell us?
Touching.
Touching what?
Wife or...
Yeah, so touching wife or another woman. Yeah, skin to skin.
Anything that comes out of front.
The 2 exits, yes.
Yeah. Sleeping.
Sleeping
Or
without
fainting.
your bottom established on the ground. Yeah. Or loss of consciousness.
Yeah.
And loss of consciousness, we said, well, I didn't explain it, but we said it can be voluntary or involuntary. Voluntary meaning that you took something which made you you drank alcohol, for example, or you took a medicine which made you go to sleep. Okay, so that's voluntary. Involuntary is you fell and you passed out, you fainted or whatever. So that's involuntary. And then the last one is
you touch your private part.
touching the private parts with the inside of your hand. Okay. So when is it recommended to do wudu? يستحب الوضوء من الفصد. It's recommended to do wudu if you have your blood taken. Okay? And from hijama, if you have hijama. Does hijama break your wudu? No. We said only these 4 things break the wudu. Yeah? So here, it's recommended. Hijama, why is he saying it's recommended? Because in another madhab, it breaks your wudu. If any blood exits from your body, according to the Hanafi madhab, it breaks your wudu. So here in the Shafi'i madhab, they said, recommended. Why? Because yustahabbu al-khuruj min al-khilaf. It's always recommended to try and remove the areas of where there's difference of opinion. It's not, we're not going to say it's break your wudu, because according to us, the evidence of the Ahnaf is weak. Okay? Why is it weak? It's weak because it's based on an analogy of basically they said it's a najasa, it's an impurity which is exiting the body, so therefore it breaks the wudu. Like the urine, which is najasa, exit the body, breaks the wudu. So they measured it on that, if you like. There is a hadith, but it's not a sound hadith. So any blood, taken blood, hijama, nosebleed, all these things are not going to break your wudu, but it's recommended to make wudu. Also recommended if you are feeling tired, any slumber, yeah, feeling a bit, go and make wudu. Why? Because usually this is from shaitan. The making of wudu breaks that shaitan. Sleeping whilst your bottom is on the ground, you went to sleep, we say it's recommended to make wudu. Again, to remove from the vomiting as well, according to the Ahnaf, breaks your wudu. Laughing in salah breaks the wudu according to the Ahnaf. Okay, laughing in salah not only breaks the salah, but also breaks your wudu. Okay, so we say it's recommended to go and make wudu. Also eating from that which the fire has touched, meaning barbecued food. If you eat, initially the Prophet ﷺ used to encourage and he used to make wudu from eating barbecued meat or anything that has been touched by fire. But then later on he would eat from that, but he didn't. And there's a difference of opinion. Eating camel meat, according to the Hanbalis, it breaks the wudu. Okay? but according to other madhab, it doesn't break wudu. So we say it's recommended. And we said also, in addition to all this, it's recommended to make wudu when you backbite somebody, when you are slandering, when you've lying, when you have cursed, or you have done said any foul language. Why is it recommended?
Because it's like eating the flesh of the flesh of your brother.
Yes.
When you backward.
Yeah, but why is wudu recommended then?
It's a form of impurity coming out of your mouth.
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
But it's close.
Sins?
Yeah.
Is wiping sins away?
Yes, good. Because wudu is a cleansing. When you make wudu, all the sins are gonna be wiped away. They're gonna drop. When you wash, every time you wash something, the sins come out of the body. So it's a form of cleansing. Also recommended to make wudu out of anger. If you're angry, make wudu because that will reduce the wudu. That's the sunnah prescription. If you want to go to sleep, sunnah again to make wudu, the hadith of Prophet ﷺ. If you want to read Quran and hadith or dhikr, or sitting in the masjid or passing by the masjid or studying any knowledge. Note here he said it's sunnah to make wudu to recite the Quran, not to touch the mushaf, because you could recite the Quran. You don't have to have wudu to recite the Quran. Alright? But to touch the mushaf, that's a different thing. And all those other things, hadith, dhikr, sitting in the masjid, etc. And lastly, the last two things, visiting the graveyard, and carrying a dead person or touching him. So carrying a dead person or touching him doesn't break wudu according to the Shafi'i madhab, but it does according to other madhabs. So here he said it's recommended, it's not obligatory. Okay, we'll end there inshallah with this section.
I have a question.
Wudu. Yes.
You mentioned that laughing in the salah breaks the wudu.
Yes.
What kind of laughing? This the one that you expel noise? Sound,
Yes.
or?
So anything that makes a sound.
Okay.
Qahqaha, they say qahqaha. They call it qahqaha means like qahqaha. So anything that makes a sound, that's what's considered a laugh. But if you smiled, like that way, something, yeah, that doesn't. And even they said if the laughing overtakes you, meaning that you have no control. Sometimes, yeah, and you have a memory of something, you remember something very funny, you say, but yeah, it's like uncontrollable. That doesn't break your wudu. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
I live in between Kingston and Surbiton.
Yes.
When I walk to Masjid every
Yes.
time, I do wudu at home.
Yes.
And walking in Kingston town center,
Yes.
we see lots of women,
Yes.
with kind of clothes and
Yes.
perfumes and those things. So does it break my wudu or no? When I come to walking, I don't look at them, but
Yes. You tell me if does it break your wudu or not.
No, yes, does it break my wudu?
Yeah, but
I have to do wudu here again?
I'm asking you to tell me if it breaks your wudu or not. Because what have we said now? We've said there are 4 things that break the wudu.
Oh, I see, yeah.
So is it one of those 4 things?
No.
No. So it
So
doesn't
it
break the
doesn't.
wudu.
I have a question about
Thank you.
But according, like we said before, because it might be an act of a sin or a ma'asiyah, then you're making wudu would be recommended to wash away anything that your eye has seen or whatever.
you mentioned about the leather socks.
Yes. Yes.
So how's that similar to the socks that we wear today, and when it comes to making wudu while you have them on?
Yes. That's a common question. That's a good question. It's good that you mentioned it. So the most of the books of fiqh will talk about the KHUFFAYN, which is the leather sock, and the other socks, which is the cotton socks, if you like. There is a narration that the Prophet ﷺ wiped on the socks and the sandals, but the hadith masters, they said that this narration is a weak narration. The Prophet wiped on, and all the preserved narrations from the action of the Prophet ﷺ is that he wiped on the khuffayn. All right, there's no strong hadith to say that he wiped on the other types of socks. So from an action of the Prophet ﷺ, we don't have anything, and that's why the majority of the madhab, and by majority we'd probably say like 95%, say that wiping on the socks, the normal ones, does not enter into this ruling here. However, they said that we can wipe on the socks if they are similar in terms of their criteria to the KHUFFAYN. So if they have the similar criteria to the KHUFFAYN, then we can say make an exception for the socks. So what does that mean? It basically means that if the socks are very thick, to the extent that maybe you could walk on them, if you went outside, and they're not gonna, by wiping on them, the water is not gonna reach your feet as such, then they said here we can use that as an analogy. Okay, that we can say, okay, you can wipe on the socks as an analogy. But it's if you like, it's a marginal opinion. Some people have gone quite extreme to take it very literal, and they've said, khalas, any sock you can wipe on, even these women like tights, those very, very thin socks. Some say even these socks you can wipe on, even if they have holes in them, and they've gone a little bit too much into that area. So the best thing really is a person tries to avoid going into the margin. And what that means is that if you have opportunities to wash your feet, then don't stay in that margin. However, if you are in a situation where you're wearing thick socks and it's difficult for you to take them off, difficult for you to wash them, then here that leniency is there to be taken, but it should be as an exception, not as a rule for your day-to-day life. So definitely, if you're at home, don't use that kind of dismissal, because it's a margin, and it's always important to try and stay away from the margin, stay to the core, and that way you're not going to risk. And that's why we said all these other things are recommended to make wudhu, because we're trying to stay away from the margins. Because even though the evidence might not be in favor, but there is a possibility that, according to the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that laughing in salah would break your wudu. Okay, because at the end of the day, the ulama, they have this principle. They say that my opinion is correct, but it might be wrong. Okay, because at the end of the day, the truth, and this is also like a theological debate, if you like, can the truth be multiple, or is the truth is only one? Meaning that these 4 things that break the wudu, are they the only things, and definitely, are these 100% definite? All the other things are not, and the answer is no, there's nothing definite here, okay? Maybe the 2 things that I told you that are agreed upon are definite, but everything else, there is an element of question mark, all right? So when you practice that, when you are practicing something, it's always best to remove that question mark away. All right, whenever there's a matter of doubt, don't fall into the doubt. Always keep in the safe side, so to speak, of your deen, as long as you don't become extreme in doing that. What does that mean? There are certain things, there are certain rules which are clearly prohibited for you to take the safe side. For example, fasting the 30th of Sha'ban. Okay, fasting the 30th of Sha'ban is haram if you are doing it to be on the safe side. You say, I'll just in case it's Ramadan, no. The Prophet clearly forbade that. So that kind of thing. Making wudu more than 3 times. So 4 times and 5 times. Or every time you want to make wudu, you go and do ghusl. You say, no, I'll just have a full wash instead of wudu. That's going too much. All right. So, and that can obviously lead to mental illness. Sometimes can happen to some people where they have this obsessive behavior, and that can also deter them from acting. But where this not the case, always keep away from the margins in the deen. All right.
The khuf,
Yes.
You know, now modern socks people have it up to the ankle. That's not allowed, isn't it?
No.
So it should be all the socks.
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
top.
yeah. That has to. We mentioned the conditions of the
Yeah.
khuf, and we said
Have to
it
be-
has to be covering the areas which you would normally wash
Yeah.
in wudu.
Another question. I
Yeah.
have. You said about breaking your wudu, about you know, releasing gas.
Yes, breaking
Yeah.
wind. Yeah.
What about the people that have astronomy, you know, on their stomach? How do they perform wudu, and how do they actually, because they have no control on that,
Yes, yes.
and will that, and if they come to Jama'ah, what will happen?
Yes. So somebody who has these, they either have a catheter.
Yeah.
So the catheter which comes out of the male organ or the female, it's basically for people who can't control their urine, or they have some sort of thing. So it is basically comes out of the male organ and then it goes into a bag. So it's continuously, the urine is continuously gathered into that. Or it can be from the gut or the stomach, because maybe they have a problem with going to the toilet, so then it comes into a bag as well. So basically, the cutoff point is the stomach. Yeah, that's what they said. The cutoff point is the stomach. What does that mean? That anything that's gone beyond the stomach is now termed as najasa. Yeah. So if it's still in the stomach and it comes out, which is vomit, it's still najis, but it's not going to break your wudu. All right, vomiting. The vomit is najis, but it's not going to break your wudu. Once it goes beyond, it goes into the bowels, then anything that comes out, whether it's through the normal path or through the other path, is najis, but also breaks the wudu. All right. So these people who have this kind of operation, they are considered in continual impurity. That means they're continuously, what they say, da'im al-hadath, continuously breaking their wudu. So what they do in this case, whenever there is a time for salah, I mean, we're going to deal with this later on, but since you've asked the question now, I might as well just answer it, is that whenever they need to pray, first of all, the time for salah has to enter. Okay? So the time for salah has to enter for them. Alright, so it's dhuhr time, asr time, whatever. Once the time has entered, now it's obligatory for them to do the salah. Yeah? So what they do is they will go and empty the bag. Alright, so now the bag is empty. They are gonna make wudu, alright, and clean any najasa, and make wudu in one go, and then engage in salah straight away. Alright? And that way, even if something has come out during that time, that's going to be excused. They can they can pray and carry on. Once the next salah has entered, they have to repeat that again. Alright? So every time they have to. Now, whether they have these bags or whether they don't have a bag, somebody might have urinary incontinence, or they will have, for a woman, maybe she will have something called menorrhagia, which is like abnormal bleeding from the uterus, or somebody might have a case of the same with flatulence, cannot keep always breaking wind. So those people, they don't have bags or anything or catheters, they will do the same thing. So they would have to wait for the salah time to enter, then they go and cleanse themselves, place any barrier that can prevent the urine or the blood from coming out, make wudu and engage in the salah straight away, not to delay it. Alright?
One more question.
Yes.
And I don't know, it might be a silly question, but I'm not sure if you're aware, but there's a school of thought, and
yes,
maybe you've heard of it, when it comes to breaking wind. They say that it only breaks your wudu if you can hear it. Have you heard of this before?
Not in that context I haven't. No. There is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which I don't know if that's what it's referring to or something else, but there is a hadith. The Prophet ﷺ said that a person might be in salah and he might feel that something is coming out. Okay, he's not sure, and there's a bit of doubt. So the Prophet ﷺ said, let him not leave the salah until he hears a sound or he smells a smell. So in this case, it's going in within the whole concept of doubt. At the moment I'm doubting, has something come out or not? Sometimes, maybe sometimes just your trousers moves and something. The Prophet ﷺ even, he gave it in a different explanation. He said, this is the shaitan maybe sometimes blowing on your rear, okay? It's almost like a form of waswasa. And I think here, subhanAllah, sometimes the shaitan is used as a literally, shaitan, or sometimes shaitan is also a metaphorical for some sort of mental issue. So even the waswasa, we talk about this obsessive nature of people, they make wudu, and then they would literally go and make wudu, then they come here to pray, then they'll say, did I make wudu or not? Then they would go back and make wudu again, then they'll come back here, have I made wudu? And then, so that kind of waswasa, we call it waswasa. Now, waswasa, this might be from the shaitan, but it might be from yourself. Alright, so we could blame the shaitan for it, or it might be from an inner thought that's happening. So this same thing is that inside you're playing now, did I just break wind or not? So the Prophet said, don't pay attention to that unless you hear a sound or you smell something that becomes definite. Alright, if you're doubting it, just ignore the doubt. Okay, I think we're gonna end there.